Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the pod. Now, I know I mentioned in last month's episode that I just want to do more like lighthearted, rambly episodes versus like always unpacking a really loaded topic. And today I wanted to do more of like a story time format. So I wanted to just like talk about all my unsuccessful encounters with like therapists and psychiatrists. And really important disclaimer here, I totally believe in mental health. I mean, obviously, I believe in mental health. Sorry. I totally believe in therapy, like talk therapy, hypnotherapy, psychiatry. I think mental health care is so important. Like, I really think mental health should be treated the same way as physical health, where, like you're getting checked up on a particular routine and you're really like maintaining and prioritizing your mental health the same you would as your physical health. So this is like not at all a dig on like therapy as like a treatment or any of like the specific therapists I've dealt with. I think a lot of it has just been bad timing or like incompatibility. A lot of people say that therapy or like finding a therapist is like dating, which I am famously very bad at. Yeah, I just want to put all that out there because I mean no disrespect to any of the therapists I talk about in these stories. It's just like a funny running trend of me loving therapy and being such a therapy nerd, but not being able to find a good therapist. Because like I love reading books by therapists and like articles by therapists. There's this book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone that I was like so obsessed with. It's like this therapist who's like talking about her own personal journey while also talking about like some of her clients. Like I love to consume therapy content. And that is like the great irony of me not currently being in therapy. But yeah, let's get into it. My first encounter with therapy was in college. I went to Penn. They have like free counseling services right on campus. And my junior year, I was so depressed. Like I think that was like probably the first distinct period of depression that I like very clearly remember in my life. I think I was pretty depressed growing up, but I was also like under a lot of stress, like academically. I don't know, like being unhappy didn't feel out of the norm to me because I was so focused on getting into college, juggling a bunch of stuff, right? And junior year at Penn, that was the first year of my life that was supposed to be really, really fun and really, really happy because I had secured my Goldman internship. Like recruiting for investment banking is like weirdly in advance. So I'd already secured my summer internship for my junior summer, like basically when the junior school year started. So that was all set. I had really good grades from like my first 2 years. And it just felt like all the hard work that I had put in had like paid off, and there wasn't anything major that I needed to like keep doing, right? Like the last 2 years of college is just like get decent grades, do your internship, get a return offer, and you're set, you know? And so like I went into junior year being like, this is going to be the best year of my life. Like I can finally just enjoy, being on my dance team and all my extracurriculars and like being around all my amazing friends that I love. And then it ended up being like the most depressing year of my life. That was the first time where I was like, what's wrong with me? Like I should be happy, but I'm not, And I was feeling like this for a good bit of time. So I was like, you know what? Like I have the luxury of like free therapy while I'm on campus. Let me just go see this person. And she was like female therapist from like a movie or TV show starter pack. Like she had a bunch of mugs on her table and she wore like long skirts and she had like short hair. And she had like this very like soothing voice that like freaked me out. I think I only saw her like 2, maybe 3 times. It's kind of hard for me to remember because at this point this was like what 5, 6 years ago. But I was just like talking to her and I didn't have like the language of like therapy at this time. Like I do think social media and like TikTok has, for better or for worse, spread a lot of like kind of like therapy mental health terminology, so people have that vocabulary now even if they're frequently like overusing it or misusing it. But yeah, I was really just in there kind of like rambling and talking, and all I was basically saying was like, my life is good, so why am I not happy? And to be completely honest, I can't remember anything she said to me because I don't think she said anything particularly useful to me. Like our sessions just felt deeply unproductive, and I also just like didn't like her vibe. Like, how do I explain it? I acutely felt like I was in therapy. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like I was talking to a real human being or like I wasn't connecting. And I know there's like discourse around like how much you should know about your therapist, because part of the benefit of therapy is that like it's kind of all about you and you're not considering the other person. For example, like if your therapist like loses their parent or something, or like they're going through a breakup, that can be complicated because then you won't want to talk about certain things or complain about certain things. There is that kind of asymmetrical nature to a relationship with a therapist. But like she just did not feel like a person to me. Like when we're talking about something that's like so intimate and emotional, like that person should feel kind of like not connected but like engaged with you. And she was, I don't know, she was just there. And then she sent this like very bizarre email. I wish I still had it because I really don't remember the exact wording, and it was like kind of like vague, but she basically emailed me and was like insinuating that I wasn't opening up to her, or like, oh, we should schedule time when you like feel more prepared to like, be vulnerable and like talk about your feelings. She didn't explicitly say that because that's like obviously fucked up. But to me, that really felt like what she was getting at. But that is like a wild thing to like even insinuate to a client, because I was like truly trying my best. And it's not like I was sitting there like stone cold face. Stone face sounds like stoner, whatever. Like I think I probably like did cry I don't know, I also cry really easily, so that doesn't mean anything. I was really trying my best. I was just struggling because I really did not know how to explain what I was feeling. Like that's why I was there. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And so yeah, I was kind of talking in circles, but I think that was before I had as much capacity to like analyze my own feelings and diagnose like what was causing me sadness. Now I'm kind of the opposite, where like I over therapize myself. But back then I really was just going in blind, and I feel like I didn't get any direction from her. Oh, no, I do remember she did mention something about my mom. I guess she like noted how much I like mentioned my mom and like what my mom would say or what my mom did say. And she was like, oh, it seems like you really have this like inner voice of your mom. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And then we never really went anywhere with that. I also, like, I forgot to mention she's white, and I know a lot of immigrant children like struggle with having white therapists, or like therapists who like aren't familiar with immigrant families or immigrant parent dynamics, because there is just like a big culture gap, a big generation gap. I think a lot of like immigrant children have a very complicated relationship with their parents, where they feel like they kind of owe them the world because their parents moved to this other country to give them a new life. That was why I always felt like I wanted to be really successful and have a lot of achievements, like because my parents sacrificed so much. And I guess like the currency is then being able to go back to China and say like, my kid got into Wharton, my kid got into Princeton, and like she's working at Goldman Sachs, or like she's a doctor, like all things that like people in China recognize and understand as being successful. Okay, sorry, I'm getting off topic, but my point is there is like a complicated dynamic putting up with certain behaviors from your parents and feeling like you should put up with it because you owe them so much, and not really pushing towards like having open conversations or giving them feedback as parents, or like working on their growth, because like culturally with like filial piety and like Chinese culture and a lot of East Asian culture, there is no concept of talking to your parent about how they fucked you up or ways they could have been better. People always say like it's your parents' first time being a parent, like they're trying their best, but there isn't really like this dialogue of let me help you grow as a person or as a parent. It's not that like your parent is just always right. I haven't had this experience, but I know people have struggled with their white therapists labeling their relationship with their parent as toxic, or, being like, oh, you need to create like better emotional boundaries, which is, not bad advice, but not understanding the nuance and the context. And even though I didn't really get into my relationship with my mom, I felt very uncomfortable diving into it with this white woman, because I was like, a lot of things that I tell you out of context are gonna like sound really crazy or fucked up to you, but if you weren't a white woman, you would totally get it, basically. So yeah, needless to say, I did not ever see her again. It definitely, like, it didn't put me off therapy, but I wasn't as, like, gung-ho about therapy back then. So that was, like, one of the few kind of touch points I had, and I was like, that was meh, right? The next time I got a therapist was, what year was this? 2020? 2021, I think. It was when I was in the Bay Area, when I was in my private equity job. And I was like really struggling with my mental health through COVID and like my second year at Goldman. So I think I was like, let me just, start seeing like a therapist regularly every week because I was like starting to struggle with my depression again. And I was like, oh, like it'll be good to like build this relationship and have this more as like a support system or like established rapport I already have versus like trying to find one when I'm like fully crashing out. I kind of like, I don't want to say swung to the opposite extreme because my first therapist wasn't old, but I was like, okay, I definitely want to see someone Asian, right? Like East Asian, ideally. And then I was like, oh, maybe someone like younger because I don't like the feeling of being like talked down to. And I was like, oh, maybe like seeing like an older, more like maternal therapist, it would like kind of trigger me to have them like question my decisions. So I found someone, I think she was a social worker. To be honest, I don't even remember her name, which is actually really sad because I did see her many times, or not many times, but I was like seeing her for a few months on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And she was like, honestly, she was probably like only a few years older than me, really, really chill. And, I felt like I clicked with her at first because our conversations had a very like young people, like me talking to my friend kind of vibe. Because I think where I often struggle with therapy is I am like so fortunate that I have a lot of like really amazing friends who are incredible listeners, who I think are like very, self-aware and like tuned into the mental health dialogue themselves and who like have known me for years and years and have so much context about me. I basically just wanted someone who kind of felt like one of my friends because those were the conversations that at least had been like most helpful to me versus conversations in therapy. And so I was like, okay, this woman, we have like friend vibes. I remember like our first session, I was like telling her about like this situation I was in with the guy. I didn't call it a situationship because I was like, we're in therapy. And then after like 2 sentences, she was like, so it's a situationship. And I was like, yes, it is exactly that. So, it was like nice that she kind of had that more, I don't know, like chronically online Gen Z vocabulary and understanding. It was like a little bit too casual. Like I remember, and I will say like this is back when my insurance was really good with like my private equity job. So I was paying like $10 a session. So it was kind of like whatever, right? Like I'm not like trying to like milk this session for like the most mental health growth possible. But we would just like kiki and like talk about like Singles Inferno and stuff. And I don't feel like she ever tried to like drive the conversation back to like actual therapy. Like I kind of had to be like, okay, now it's like actually talk about how I'm fucked in the head. I think she told me to like keep a gratitude journal. No hate on gratitude. Okay, I think like there are all these studies about how gratitude is like so important for your happiness or whatever. But at least like my experience dealing with depression, I am like so acutely aware of how blessed my life is. Like I almost think like my struggle with depression is like half the depression and half me beating myself up for being depressed because I'm like your life is so incredible. Like parents have an amazing marriage. I have an amazing sister. I also love my brother-in-law. Like my family is always there for me. My parents are so good to me. And I like, grew up being so provided for and they like pushed me academically so that I could like have so much success. And I have like amazing friends, like the most amazing friends. I get to live in New York City. I mean, I wasn't living in New York at this time. I was living in the Bay, but like, I get to live in like an amazing city and like have this amazing life, an amazing job. Well, I hated my job back then. My point is though, like, I don't think gratitude and trying to find gratitude is really the solution for me personally, because so much of my like frustration is with the fact that I feel like I should be so happy about these things and I'm so aware of how lucky I am, but I like can't enjoy this blessed life. I literally like I'm like, give this life to someone else whose brain chemistry is normal because they would have like a baller of a time living my existence, Well, then what followed was like a gradual, not so gradual descent. I feel like this gets mentioned in like every other episode, but just me like getting super, super depressed and then leaving finance entirely and moving home for a little bit. I saw a psych NP. So that's like a nurse practitioner, like not technically a psychiatrist, but I guess they can still like prescribe you meds and stuff. She like diagnosed me with depression and then gave me a prescription for Lexapro, which is like an antidepressant. It's like an SSRI. And I know people prescribe Lexapro like it's candy these days, but she just was like, okay, take this, and didn't talk to me at all about like side effects, anything. She just gave it to me, and she started me on 10 milligrams, which is not like an unreasonable starter dosage. I think often people will start you on like 5 milligrams to like work you up over time, but she just gave me 10, and that shit destroyed me. Like, I think there were a lot of factors that went into this. I think my body is like really, really sensitive to the medication. I also was like already in a really bad state then. And like when you first start Lexapro, like it can make you suicidal, which is like not great when you already don't have a will to live. I don't know how to describe it other than I had like a week and a half long like anxiety attack slash depressive episode. I literally could not eat. I was eating this like one specific, I think it's like pecan crunch or something. It's this one flavor of Quest bar, and it's the only one that I think is good. My friend put me on. I think all the other ones are like, oh, actually, I've only ever tried like another. I've only ever tried, can't talk, a few other flavors. But yeah, I ate like only those for a week. I was supposed to be like packing, and I had to call in like multiple friends to basically like come in and help me pack, because I like literally couldn't do anything. Like I was lying in bed suffering like some sort of like low, like I wasn't having like a full-on panic. Well, I had some full-on panic attacks, but I was like suffering from like low-level anxiety attack that was like constant, while also being like really depressed. It was genuinely like one of the worst weeks of my life. I cannot even explain the way I felt. Honestly, I didn't even realize it was the medication because she didn't warn me at all. And I like wasn't that like well versed with Lexapro, because like now I have a lot of friends that I know who are on it. But back then I was like, I don't really know what this stuff is. Once I like talked to more people and did more research, I was like, oh, that was like side effects from me like being on a dosage that was probably too high for me. And once my body like adjusted, I was fine. But I think part of the reason it was so horrible is because I didn't realize that it was like a side effect and I was just dying. And I thought like I was just having like the worst depression anxiety ever that was like ramping up for some reason. So yeah, I that got better. But I had like my follow up with my psych MP 2 weeks later. I was like, oh, so like that dosage like hit me like a truck, and I fully thought I was gonna die. And she was like, do you want to go up to 20? And I was like, what? I genuinely was like looking around the room like, am I speaking English? Like, am I speaking Chinese right now? Like, does this woman understand what I'm saying? And I was like, no. No, I know I don't want to do that. And I ended up staying on the 10 because at that point, like, I think I had more or less adjusted to it and I was fine. So I was like, I'll just stay on this. But I was like, what, like, where's the communication gap here? I was genuinely gagged, like at a loss for words. And the other reason this psych MP was my op, besides the fact that she like was trying to up my deathly Lexapro dosage, I wanted to like sign off and get medical leave. Because okay, when I left finance, I first took like 2 months of like a leave of absence, because like I talked to them about leaving and I told them like a huge part of it was my mental health, and they were like, okay, maybe try taking some time off and then see how you feel. And then if I had gotten it approved as like medical leave, then like I could have been paid out like at least a portion of my salary, right? And it shouldn't have been a problem because she like diagnosed me with depression and prescribed me medication, so she should be the one to sign off on medical leave. Like I went to my PCP and he was like, I'm just not comfortable signing you off because like why would I, because another doctor already like talked to you and made this conclusion. And I would like speak to her about it in sessions and email her about it, and she was just like ignore me. I don't know what her reason would be for not signing off, but if she didn't want to sign off, she could just say that. But she literally was just like avoiding the topic and like being dodgy about it. And I was like so confused. To this day, like I know I said in the beginning that like I have utmost respect for all these mental health professionals. Not this one, okay? This woman is still my op. Like I don't know what the fuck was going on with her. And it like scares me that she's just like out here like prescribing people Lexapro and not explaining any side effects. So yeah, those were my Bay Area mental health helpers. When was the next time I got a therapist? Oh, okay. When it comes to my bad luck with therapists, this one really takes the cake. I need to tell you about the time this therapist convinced me that I should let her hypnotize me and then forgot and then ghosted me. So let's get into it. Basically, I picked this therapist off the platform because her like kind of bio thing really spoke to me, because she like really believed in practicing like a fusion of Eastern and Western medicine. And I truly believe in both. Like I believe in a lot of aspects of like Zongyao, which is like Chinese medicine. And I totally believe in like the mind-body connection. And this was like a South Asian therapist, I forgot to mention. And so I was like, okay, this is like really speaking to me, right? And I started seeing her, and she wasn't like as young as my last therapist, which I was fine with because I think she was a little bit too young. And, it wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't like bad. Like, she was easy to talk to. I liked her vibe. What I did notice though was that like she never wrote anything down, which I was like, okay, I'm like spilling my entire life story right now. Like, do you want to take notes? Which again, it's fine if you don't take notes, if you like remember what I say to you. But I'd have my next session with her and I'm like, I don't feel like she remembers that much about what I told her. Like, that vibe where you're like at a restaurant and then the waiter like isn't writing down your order, but you're listing off like a million things and you're kind of like, I don't think you actually remember this whole order, but it seems like you're committed to the bit of not needing the notepad to remember. Yeah, I was like, okay, she doesn't seem to be remembering everything, but whatever. And then one appointment, like we'd seen each other every week for, I don't know, like a few months. She was talking about how she wanted to try hypnosis on me. And she was like, you like really rationalize all your feelings. And she was like, I don't know how much more talk therapy can do for you because you're like so aware of like what is causing like your emotions. But hypnotherapy is about like going back to your childhood and finding like these original like wounds and triggers and like kind of like healing that versus, focusing on what is like currently triggering you in the present. And that really spoke to me. Also just like I totally believe in like whatever body keeps score, like holding trauma in your body. And so I was like, okay, we're like accessing the subconscious. That sounds awesome because my surface level conscious, I feel like has literally done everything it possibly can to not be depressed. She told me, she was like, next appointment, we're gonna do it lying down and just like have a bowl of ice. She was being so cheeky about it. Like she wouldn't tell me what the bowl of ice was for, but she was like, just have the bowl of ice. And I was like very open-minded about this. You have to understand, I wasn't like all my friends were like, this woman was gonna hypnotize you over Zoom. But I like wasn't skeptical. I was like excited. I was like, okay, let's fucking go. And so I joined the next appointment lying down in my bed. Like, I'm not like propped up on my elbow. Like I'm fully horizontal, which is weird. It felt like I was like FaceTiming my long distance boyfriend. And then we just start the session and it's immediately clear that she does not remember that she had mentioned hypnosis in the last session, which again is like a giveaway that maybe she does need to take notes. I don't know. She was like, just like asking me how my week was going and like talking about normal stuff. And I didn't want to literally be like, yo, you said you were gonna hypnotize me, dog. So I had to like try to maneuver the conversation towards that direction. And then she was like, oh, we did mention potentially trying hypnotherapy, right? She's like, we should do it right now since you happen to be lying down anyway. And I'm like, do you think like it's a coincidence that I'm like fully horizontal right now? Like, do you think this is a normal way to pick up a Zoom call? What I will say is when she was on therapy with me, she would be on this like, what do they call it? Like a breakfast nook when you have like a little couch bed thing by a window. And she would be like, not lying down, but kind of like half. Like sometimes she'd be like propped up on her elbow and I'd be like, are you sitting or lying down right now? So maybe to her, me picking up the therapy call in bed was normal, So she was like, oh yeah, we said we are going to try hypnosis. Let's try it. And I mean, I'm sure this is more effective in person, but basically like she had me close my eyes and she was like, oh, like imagine kind of like your safe space or like your relaxing, peaceful place. And I was like, oh, okay, like lying on the beach, like back home in California. And so she was like, imagine like the sound of the water and the feeling of the whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm imagining. I thought the process of like getting to like your subconscious would be like a little bit more involved because I was just like supposed to be like locking into the senses of this like safe space. And then we kind of went straight into her like asking me questions about like conjuring childhood memories, right? Like I think when we finished the whole beach sleeping, not sleeping, like beach peaceful safe space bit, that I was already supposed to be like kind of under, and I was very much not under, I fear. I do think like my consciousness and self-awareness is like pretty ironclad, so I do think I would be like a really difficult person to hypnotize because I'm not one to like succumb to like the feeling or like let my mind be free. Like my mind is the least free fucking thing ever. So to her credit, like I think if anyone tried to hypnotize me for the first time, it would probably be difficult. But yeah, I was not under. But then she started like basically just like asking me like about certain feelings and like if any childhood memories were coming up. And guys, like there really wasn't anything coming up. And maybe this was part of the problem. I was trying really hard. Part of the issue with the experience is that like she wasn't being like mean or harsh or anything, but it really felt like I was supposed to be thinking of things and feeling things, and I wasn't. And I think the harder I tried, probably like the less hypnotized I was. Cause I was like working my brain so hard, like trying to think of something. I was like, okay, I need something to float up right now, but like nothing was coming up. Turns out the bowl of ice was supposed to be for to like take me out of like the hypnotic state. I mean, it was very melted and I obviously did not need it because I did not actually get hypnotized. Like the way she was talking about it, it was like kind of the same feeling as my college therapist where it felt like she didn't think that like I was that open-minded towards it and that like I was like being resistant when I truly like wanted it to work. I'm sure like yes, I was being resistant and that like that's just how my brain is, but I wasn't like consciously like against the idea of trying it at all. Like I wanted it to work. And she was like, "Oh, your throat chakras are like really blocked," which multiple people have told me and I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, you went under like a little bit, but like not fully. We like discuss another date for an appointment." And then I never hear from her again. Oh, that's not true actually. We like set a time. We set a date. And then she like never emailed me to confirm it. I mean, to be fair, I also didn't email her because I was like, I don't really feel like seeing this woman again. But she, yeah, like never followed up. And then she ended up following up like a month later, which I was like, okay, are your clients running low or something? Like, why did you suddenly think of me? Or maybe she forgot that we set the appointment, so she was waiting for me to email her. But the funniest part of this whole thing is that my friend, I had told her this story. And then months later, she text me and she was like, "Did you say that the therapist who tried to hypnotize you, her name was blank?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" I was like, "Please don't say what I think you're gonna say." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I have like an initial intake scheduled with her." And she was like, her bio like really spoke to me. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, wait, you also said her bio really spoke to you because of the combination of Eastern and Western medicine. I think she ended up canceling the intake. I was like, you might as well still try, but I think me saying that she never wrote anything down about me and kept forgetting things about me was not like the most compelling review of her therapy, so I don't think she ended up having the intake with her. Yeah, that is by far the most comical experience I've had with therapy. That's like a good, I was gonna say party trick, not party trick. It's also not actually that great of a story time because it's very like, why did your therapist ghost you? She shouldn't do that, which yeah, that's true. How is it that I'm like going to therapy because like men keep ghosting me and then you ghost me? Yeah. So that happened. I really like I need to emphasize again, I really want an amazing therapist because I have like multiple friends where I feel like therapy has really changed their life. Like they've found the right person, you know, even just like me being their friend, I can like see what a difference their therapist has made for them. And like I was craving that experience so much, but like my touch points of therapy so far, I was like, why does it keep happening like this? Like this is not a vibe. Does not making me want to seek help at all because I'm not getting any help. And so I kind of just like abandoned the therapy train for another bit. My most recent foray into therapy was actually basically at the beginning of this calendar year, so like January 2025. I was fighting for my life over the holidays. I was just like, it's not even that it was like the worst of my depression, but like I was just really depressed from like August through January, and I had just reached that point where I was like, I kept thinking I was getting better and then it would go down again, and like a lot of it was like linked to this unfortunate dating experience I had, but obviously it was about like what that triggered and not like the guy himself because he's like actually so irrelevant. I was just like so sick of feeling like that. Like I was really hoping, I think I was banking a lot of hope on like the new year being a fresh start for me. Instead, I went into the new year feeling like shittier than ever, or not like shittier than ever, but like not good. So I kind of had the mental resolve. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to New York and I'm going to find a therapist, like maybe try antidepressants again. But I was like, we need to do something about this. And I will say this is like a bad habit I have is like only seeking mental health care when I'm just like in a dire state. Because that's not really a good state to be like finding a therapist or a psychiatrist. Like ideally you go when you're actually feeling okay and you like kind of have the emotional energy to like test out different people and find someone you're compatible with and like really like build rapport, have them like get context on your life. And then you sort of have that relationship in place for when shit hits the fan, you know? Versus trying to like explain your entire life story and then why shit has hit the fan in the last, whatever, 5 months. I was like, okay, timing is not ideal, but let me just like do this now because I only feel motivated to do it when I'm like feeling really shitty, right? I was like looking at like psychiatrists, like MPs in case I did want medication. And then I tried to like, talk to more people this time. So I had like a little like very brief kind of like 15-minute intake call with 3 different people. I think the person I ended up going with was like the first one that I had the phone call with. So I think the first thing that was really annoying me is that when I had my first session with her, her daughter, who is also named Grace, came into her office during the session. And keep in mind, this is like an intake. So I'm like explaining what I've been going through over the last 6 months that has led me to come here. So I'm like fully sobbing while talking. And then this like little girl comes into frame. And she was like, "This is also Grace." And I'm like, bro, respectfully, all respect to little Grace. I don't give a fuck because we're in therapy right now. I think it was like a holiday or something, maybe. I don't know. So they were like home. So she like takes her out of the room. And this girl comes back like 5-10 minutes later. And I'm like, why are you doing therapy in an office that your daughter can easily walk into? Like, maybe if you don't have a nanny home, like you don't want to lock her out. I get that. But like, this is just so unprofessional. She literally was like in the frame and like talking to her and being like, "Grace, I need you to leave. I need you to leave, Grace." And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, so needless to say, I came out of that first session just like not feeling so amazing about her. The other thing, oh, I forgot. I was kind of annoyed because like at the beginning she was like, "Oh, tell me what's going on." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to get into like the full flushed out story." And then she interrupts me and she's like, "No, like this is your time. Like, this is your time to share." And I was like, "No, the problem is not that I don't feel comfortable sharing. I'm very comfortable sharing. I'm just not concise. And if I give you the whole story, it's going to take up almost the entire hour. And then I'm not really going to have any data points on like whether we are compatible because I will have just like yapped about this random ass man for an hour." But she was like, "No, just talk, whatever." And then I like proceed to yap about this random ass man for an hour and she barely talks. So like all I know about her is that she has a daughter named Grace who keeps breaking into her room. I mean, I know I didn't go through that much of a process. I just like had 3 phone calls. But I was like, I really don't feel like talking to another person. And this is also when I had already started paying for therapy out of pocket. So I think I paid like $200-300 for that session that this Grace girl broke into. And so I was like, I don't like want to pay another $300 to see if I like someone. So let me just see her again. And then lo and behold, guess who comes into the room during the second session? My girl Grace. She is back in business. And at this point I was like so over it. Because again, she like doesn't kick her out immediately. She's like talking to her and like she's being very stern. She's like, "Grace, I need you to leave like right now." And like, I'm like, dude, pick her up, get her out with all due respect to the fact that you are a mother and everything. But I'm just like, I need this girl, your daughter, to stop coming in when I'm crying about my life. No, the thing that really put me off is she was like, "Oh, Grace," like she was like, "I was reading this book and there was this part that like really made me think of you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "It's talking about how like we often like look for the love that we didn't receive as children in our relationships." And I don't know if you're also on therapy talk the way that I am, but like, is that not like literally therapy 101? I would be fine with her pointing that out to me, but the fact that this seemed to be like an incredible revelation to her was incredibly confusing to me. She like really built up to this point. Like it was like super mind blowing and how it like really opened up her world and she thought it would really do something for me. And then she told me and I just kind of like stared at her and I was like, yeah, that's a thing. I don't know. She also was like pissing me off because I was like pointing out things about myself. And then she was like kind of repeating them back to me. Like she came up with the conclusion, but I'm like, why are you like telling me this? Like it's a realization when I like literally just told you. Like I told her, I was like, "Oh, I think my like overachiever mindset definitely factors in when I'm dating." And I'm like, partially for like healthy reasons, partially for not. I'm like, I think I want someone who wants me not because I'm easy to get, but because like I'm actually special and like they're actually picky and they actually want me. I like knowing basically that a guy has options. Like I know some women like dating a guy where they're like, oh, I'm like the best girl he could ever get. I mean, I understand that, but I think for me, I'm like, I don't want a guy who like has no other options and is just choosing me because I'm his only choice. I want someone who can pull women but chooses me. And that's like where the overachiever mindset comes in. Like I don't want someone just because they're there. Like I want to be so special that I've like earned it, I guess. And so I was feeding her all this and then she was like saying it back to me like she had just cooked. And I was like, no, you didn't cook. Like I cooked and I handed you the plate. And why are you handing the plate back to me like you cooked the plate? I don't know. I was just, yeah, so I never saw her again because I didn't want to see her daughter again, TBH. That was like the biggest thing. And that's where we are today. I mean, this is like the whole thing, right? A lot of people say therapy is like dating. I think I already said that. And it's just like funny because so many of the issues I want to go to therapy about are about dating, right? Like what I'm attracted to versus like what is actually good for me and like what should I actually be looking for and why can't I find the right person. And I feel all those things about the process of finding a therapist as well. So I'm just like, this is a fucking mind fuck. I'm trying to seek help for this problem and I'm facing the same problem in a different format because there are so many parallels, right? Like on paper, I want like a woman and I want them to like be East Asian or like also a person of color and, you know, like also an immigrant child and, you know, not be too young, but not be too old. And it just becomes this like long checklist like people sometimes have for their partner. But then it's like, what do I want? Like, I feel like I like someone who isn't like super nurturing and motherly. Like I don't like getting the words of affirmation. And I keep saying I really want someone who will like call me out on my bullshit and not like baby me. But maybe that's not what would actually be best for me, you know? Like I had a friend, her therapist who changed her life was literally like a grandma, like a white grandma pastor's wife. That was like the last thing I was expecting for her. But like this woman like changed her life, was amazing. So I'm like, maybe like what I actually need in a therapist is not what I'm looking for, what I think I need. And then I was like, maybe I should find a male therapist. Maybe I should go for a white male therapist and just like, you know, go crazy. It's like the same way where I'm like, maybe I should date white guys. I'm just like, I don't know. And obviously it's difficult because I have like way fewer data points. Like I've only talked to like a handful of therapists and clearly, you know, a lot of them did not go that well. I think there's like a lot of things obviously that I could do on my end. Like I'm not blaming all this on, you know, the mental health care industry. I think like I could do to like look for someone when I'm not in a dire state. I could, you know, do like a lot more initial calls instead of just like trying to find someone as fast as I can. I do think like the money thing is also a big thing. Like it's worth giving people time and like you need like quite a few sessions with someone to like really figure out if it works. This is another parallel with dating. Like I decide if I like someone that I'm dating like on the first date and I just like do not want to like keep seeing them if I'm not sure about them. Like I'm like I don't have the social battery for that. I don't want to do it. It makes me feel icky. It's like the same thing with therapists. I'm like, if I'm not immediately sold on them, I don't want to give them more time. But also, if I'm paying $300 a session, I also don't want to give them more time if it's not going anywhere. As much as I like therapize myself and like over rationalize everything, I think just like a good talk therapist could still do so much for me. And I think there is still so much about myself that I don't understand, or like certain topics where like I have like an inkling of an idea, but like I want to work through it with someone. I think a lot of people will only give therapy like a few tries and then kind of give up. And there's like a lot of good reasons to feel that way. But I want to say like it's worth it to keep trying. Again, very hypocritical because I'm not trying right now. But again, that's partially because of the health insurance thing. And I know a lot of people struggle with like how expensive mental health care can be. And it's like, this is costing me so much that I'm not even sure there's like a net positive benefit on my mental health anymore. But it's worth it when you find the right person, right? Same as dating. So I think it's worth putting in the work. And I think once I like figure out my new insurance, hopefully that covers mental health somehow and I can find a therapist, or just like do a lot of like intake calls and then hopefully find someone that I think is like worth spending the money on. I haven't had a lot of luck in that avenue, unfortunately. And I wanted to share that that's normal and that it's not a reason to give up on therapy in general. Never forget when I got hypnotized or not hypnotized and then ghosted. Okay, that's all for today's episode. Again, let me know if you all have ideas for topics that aren't overly loaded, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys. You left the kitchen